Good evening. My name is Nathan Paul. I'm a family medicine physician. I work as a primary care doctor here in Woonsocket. My background also includes a training in what's called preventive medicine, which is trying to take a public health lens to try to get at the root cause of a lot of the problems we see. Why that matters is because in primary care, we get to know people over time. And oftentimes working in communities that have been hit with economic downturns and things like that, you start seeing a lot of other health impacts also occur. We know social determinants of health are cause about 90% of why people have certain health problems in life. And so as much as I can try to prescribe a person out of their diabetes, if their environment is not secure and safe and meeting basic needs, we know that we cannot really get them to take their medications as we want them to, get their levels down, and so on and so forth. The reason I bring all of this up is because housing is integrally tied to any person's health. You know it, I know it. I was standing outside for just a few minutes, my body started shaking from the cold. Can you imagine what that does minute after minute, hour after hour, night after night, month after month? It is devastating to not just the body, but to the psyche. So what does that do? Your mental health starts to break down. I was talking to one of my patients who said the scariest night of his life was the first night he lost housing because he couldn't afford rent and he was evicted. I think we can all understand that the first time, if you suddenly realize for the first time in your life you actually don't have a roof over your head and you're going to be sleeping outside, it can be really scary. What happens from that point forward is the trauma and pain starts to set in. Now what do you do when the trauma and pain starts to set in? Well, you try to find anything to help you just get through this night. This is one of the main causes of how people turn to drugs and become addicted to drugs and things like that. If we all agree that drug use and overdoses are a problem, again, let's take the root cause approach to this. What's causing it? Housing is integrally tied to not just drug use, but to their overall health. One of my patients just today, the reason I'm here today, one of my patients, he's been sober for 10 years, working 2 jobs, unable to afford rent, living outside in a tent. It was one of his tents was in the encampment that was raised down. He's probably about mid-50s, and he's got children, and he pays child support for and supports them. His children had even drawn little drawings for him to give to him over Christmas. He had it up in his tent. All of a sudden, at the break of dawn, early morning, he hears what sounded like this loud noise right outside his tent. And he quickly pokes his head out. The workers there didn't realize there was someone inside the tent. They tried to tell him that they didn't know this before. He's an honest person. He does 2 jobs. He's stuck with these jobs. He's stayed with these jobs for a long time. There's no reason why he would lie. He says he had no prior notice of what was happening. And then while they forced him to step aside, and in front of him, 3 feet in front of him, they started breaking down all of his belongings. It broke him. He's one of the toughest people I know. He says one of the first times I actually cried. I was crying and trying to ask him, please don't do this right now, just give me some time. It didn't matter. The reason I'm sharing that story is because I think it's their stories that matter. They're our people, they're your constituents whom we're trying to serve here, and we have to understand that a simple decision to be like, oh, we need to clear that area out, get it done, has massive impacts on people. It can really crush someone. For a person who's been working and provided for his own children and things like that, it could take a mental toll, break them off of their path through recovery, and suddenly reset them into a cycle of addiction and pain. We're trying to avoid these things. We're trying to find ways to connect with people, give them the basic needs that they need to help them take that next step so that they can come to recovery. And I want to reiterate, we can solve this, whether it's drug use, homelessness, it's actually solvable. It's been done in so many places. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes leadership and a vision that's able to actually just look at the problem and be like, well, we can't just hide it, we can't just solve it in 1 year. We need to work with the ground level organizations who have established relationships with people, who have built these connections of trust and provide the resources needed. We can really get people back on the right track. And I'm not joking at all. There's groups of people who we work with who come on a weekly basis for weekly meetings. These are all people who are sober now, and they've been sober now for about, I think, anywhere from range from 5 to 10 years. How is that possible? How do we get people out of addiction, out of homelessness, into those things? It took a lot of intensive outreach from the social workers, community health workers, frontline workers to do this. So my point here being that this stuff is 100% possible to do, but when we just go and with the snap of a finger suddenly decide that needs to go down, all of the work that we're doing, whether it's me in the clinic or the social workers, all of that goes crumbling down. All those resources, the money that was put into it can collapse inwards. It's recreating these cycles, and we can be so much more efficient, we can do this so much better, but we really need to coordinate from the office of the mayor to the city council, all the way down to the community grassroots organizations, and most importantly, to the people who are directly impacted by this problem. We cannot be doing these decisions from a far place. We have to get boots on the ground. And the good thing, the great news is that Woonsocket has amazing boots on the ground. You have amazing workers, people who have given their whole lives to this, who are working for less than what they deserve, but they put in more hours than they're supposed to be working. We can do this if we can combine all of our efforts, and I think it's really important to be able to actually communicate with each other and to treat these people as human beings whom we can lift to recovery and bring them back to a good place. Thank you.